Shalom Yesharala. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rachah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to those Le'akim that's preached the word in all truth and sincerity, along with the Israelite foreigner brothers that like the heathens. But the line of outside goes back to the nation of Israel, which nation of Israel, i.e., so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, through the prophecies and curses of Deuteronomy 28 chapter and throughout the Bible. So this is your brother Yakar, a mob back to the video, and today's video will be entitled, We Are Laboring for Them Crowns. I ask you to go on some precepts and Lord willing, you brothers and your sisters out there be edified through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai. You know, us in this faith, we are all laboring to get, Lord willing, them incorruptible crowns that Yahweh Shai is going to place on the elect heads, and Lord willing will be of those men, because all the hell that we go through it will be worth it in the end, because being in this truth, it deals with delayed gratification, and if we are a part of the elect and we endure to the end, the Lord is going to reward us, man. You know, um, Lord willing. And I just want to go into that less in regards to that. And I'm gonna start off in the book of First Corinthians, chapter 9 and verse 24. It says, "Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize, so run that you may obtain." And that's right, man, because Apostle Paul, compared, during this was during the time of the Roman Empire, so it was a lot of the Olympics, track and field. So he compared that, to made an analogy of comparing it being in the faith, but we understand that the race is to the one that endures until the end, just as the actual race for the track and runner. It's not about how fast you go, it's about if you're able to pace yourself throughout the race and endure the race, and have the stamina and endurance. So same with this truth, in the spiritual sense, but we all want to receive that prize, man. Our prize is, we understand, is ultimately going to be salvation. But after the salvation, it's going to be, the graduation day when Yahweh Shai is going to crown the elect with them crowns. And we're going to go into that later in this video. It's a so run that you may obtain, so we want to obtain that prize, man. The salvation, Lord willing. It says verse 25, and Slack, if you can hear noise in the background. The construction workers over here working by my house. It says, and everyone man that strive for the mastery is temperate in all things. Right. And temperate, when you go into that word temperate, it's from the Greek word en kratuomi, en kratuomi, hard to pronounce. To be self-controlled, contented. Yeah, because we got to be self-controlled in this faith. The scriptures speak about ruling our spirits, you know. It says to exhibit self-government, conduct one's self temperately, and a figure drawn from athletes who, in preparing themselves for the games, abstain from unwholesome food, wine, and sexual indulgence. And that's correct. So, you know, um, so temperance is also means discipline. Because that's the thing about athletes; they're very disciplined. They don't eat, unwholesome foods like fried chicken or a lot of bread. They because they're trying to prepare themselves for the fight. And they know they will perform better if they stay uh, without if they don't eat those type of foods. And also liquor, which is wine and sexual indulgence, having sex before the fight. So they're very athletes. They're very self-controlled. So that's the same spirit we got to be in this faith as well. We got to be able to rule our spirits and have balance in the faith. You know, so um, So yes, and every man that strive for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown rights. Because these athletes, they're very disciplined in their diet. Not having sex a lot and not drinking a lot. But they do it all to obtain a corruptible crown. Because when them boxers or the fighters do win, when a boxer does win that belt is not even solid gold. It's gold plated. That's the corruptible crown, man. You doing all these sacrifices and all to obtain a a corruptible belt. You know, because for years I thought that was an actual. Them belts were actually solid gold all throughout, but it's gold plated. It's when you look it up, it says, but we an incorruptible. So we doing all these things. We have self control. We apply the scriptures. We put brothers before us. We're selfless. We do all this, but the way we're doing it towards an incorruptible crown. You know, we're disciplining this truth to the best. Which we all got flaws. We all can. We're not perfect. But we all are work in progress. And wherever we fall short of, that's where we correct it. You know, it's I therefore so run not as uncertainly, so fight I not as one that beateth the air, because you don't want to be a boxer. You don't want to just which is basically shadow boxing, which is nothing wrong with that. But if you go on an actual fight, you want to actually hit the fighter. You don't want to. Which I don't know too much about boxing, but you want to hit your target. So we don't want to be in the truth. In other words, we don't want to do this truth in vain. Meaning, you do all these works in the Lord, and then you fall out. You don't want to be that man, which we understand we can't control our lot in the faith, our fate in the faith. But the Lord did give us the tools to use, which is the scriptures, to apply them, so we won't be an example of that of a fallout. You know, or you don't want to be the brother that have a lot of wisdom, but you don't apply the wisdom to yourself. It profits others, but it don't profit you. So you don't want to be that as well. But it says, verse 27, but I keep under my body and bring it into subjection through the discipline, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway, right, man? So we don't want to be castaways, man. So we got to apply what we preach to ourselves first and foremost, then to the other Akim, because this truth, it applies to us, first and foremost, and then to the Akim that we do the videos to, because we got to apply it ourselves as well, first and foremost. And when you go to Second Timothy chapter 4 and verse 6, and this is an Apostle Paul letter or an epistle that he wrote to Timothy, which Timothy was like Apostle Paul's spiritual son in the faith, you know. It says, for I'm now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand, because Apostle Paul, he knew he was about to die, because Emperor Nero had ordered the beheading of Apostle Paul. So this was his last letter that he would write. It said, I have fought a good fight, and I have finished my course, and I have kept the faith, right? So, he had a good conscience. This is a good conscience we want to have when all hell breaks loose. Yahweh Shimon Shah, I fought a good fight. I finished my course. I did what you commanded me to do. I did the best I can, and I kept the faith. I didn't fall out. I didn't get disenchanted. I didn't leave the faith because of uncomforts or being difficult. So we want to have this mindset. It says, henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, Yahweh Shemosha, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day. So Apostle Paul, he knew by faith that he will receive the crown of righteousness, because Apostle Paul is of the elect, or was of the elect, and he's going to get that crown on his head, man. You know, it says, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing, which is his fellow elect members, brothers in the faith. So that's what we're laboring for, and And Second Edges 2, it speaks about the crowns, you know. But let's first get this before I go into that. Sirach, also known as Ecclesiastes 11:5 in the Apocrypha, many kings have sat down upon the ground, and one that was never thought of have worn a crown. Right, man. And this is Lord willing going to apply to us, you know, because we were, you know, growing up in this world, we never thought we would be future kings and priests in the world to come very soon. You know, we never knew. You know, we never even thought of that, man, because we've been brought on such a low level. We never thought this will eventually become us in the kingdom. You know, but it's gonna happen, man. You know, which all Israel, all the men is gonna have them crowns. Well, it's gonna be an order, of course. You know, the Yahweh Shai and the governing body, 144,000. But all the Israelite men in the kingdom gonna be kings. We all gonna be kings and priests. But it's gonna begin. It's gonna be different levels in the kingdom, though. You know, it's gonna start with Yahweh Shai, you know, the 12 apostles and the elect, the 144,000, which is the governing body. You know, so we don't want to be an average Israelite, just an Israelite citizen in the kingdom, like Apostle Paul often says. We want to be, you know, we want to be joint heirs with Yahweh Shai, man. We want to make it on the first go around. You know, we don't want to have to be born in the kingdom. But this is Second Esdras 2 and verse 42. It says, I Esdras saw upon the Mount Sinai great people whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with songs. You know, and this great people is the 144,000 holy apostles and prophets, which are all men of the nation of Israel. You know, 12,000 from each 12 tribes of Israel. And they all praised the Lord with songs. And in the midst of them was a young man of a high stature, taller than all the rest. And upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. And this young man of a high stature, this is our Lord Yahushua. So, you know, Esdras, he's seen Yahushua crowning the elect with crowns, you know. So this will be, like the elders once said, remember, Elder Barack Allah from GMS LA camp said this is like a graduation day, which is true, you know. So, Lord willing, you know, we're able to, Lord willing, be participants in this. It says, verse 44 says, so I asked the angel and said, Sir, what are these? He answered and said to me, These be they that put off the mortal clothing, which is, you know, the mortal clothing represents this corruptible flesh, this corruptible body that's subject to sin, that's subject to aging, decaying, and put on the immortal. The immortal will be when we get them extraterrestrial bodies, you know, uh, to the point when we're gonna get them new bodies in the kingdom, when we never gonna sin, because all the nation of Israel is gonna have the new covenant in their inner parts. So the immortal represents the new bodies, you know, them extraterrestrial bodies with spiritual power, you know, and have confessed the name of Yahweh, because the elect they will know the name of the Heavenly Father Yahweh and the Son Yahweh Shai. Now are they crowned and receive palms. You know, and palms is a symbol of victory. Once again, it's like Yaki for the noise. Palm. It says, yep, it says palm, the palm of victory, prize, trophy. So palm is a symbol of victory, prize, trophy, award, crown. You know, and that's Lord willing what we're gonna get. Then said I unto the angel, What young person is it that crowned them and giveth them palms in their hands? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of the Most High, which is Yahweh Shai, whom they have confessed in the world. You know, so the elect they will boldly confess the name of Yahweh Shemon Shai, man. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. And that's what the elect gonna do until the end. They're gonna stand so stiffly, man. You know, they gonna be they're gonna uh they're gonna be rock solid in the faith, man. They're not gonna change the doctrine. They're not gonna switch the names up. You know, they're gonna keep teaching the names of Yahweh and Yahweh Shai in the true doctrine, and they're gonna stand on that. You Jake has a saying in the world, standing on business. That's what the elect is going to do in righteousness by standing strictly for the name of the Lord. Then the angel said unto me, Go thy way, and tell my people what manner of things and how great wonders of the Lord thy God thou hast seen, man. So this is a future prophecy that's gonna happen. When Yahweh Shah crowned his elect men of Israel, man. We're gonna have them. The elect is gonna have them incorruptible bodies with spiritual power. This is a graduation day right here. Going through all the hell that the Israelite man went through here in America, which is Babylon the Great. The Lord's going to reward those that put their trust in Him. So Lord willing, we hoping to be at our number, man, and that we continue to endure in the faith, Lord willing, to the end. So yeah, I just want to make a lesson on that. Lord willing, Aqua is edified, and until next time, Shalom.